Hi, everyone, and welcome to Demystifying Smart Building series brought to you by Cohesion, the industry's only smart building unified software platform. My name is Thru, and I'm the CEO and co-founder, and I'm here with Nick, my partner in crime and Cohesion CTO and co-founder. Before we dive in, I want to apologize about yesterday's webinar and for the mishap. Apparently, Nick told me that he was rewatching the video and he saw me kick a mic. So this is actually all my fault, not my team's fault. So I'll take the blame. But anyway, in this series, we will sort through the noise of what is a smart building and answer your questions about integrations and data. In this conversation, we're going to reveal really unique perspectives on where people go wrong, and that happens a lot. We hear it from our customers or prospects, and how things can get complex fast. In future webinars, we will hear from our customers and people ahead of the market in integrations and smart buildings. But today, we're going to focus on integrations 101. So let's start with this. What is a smart building, Nick? How's that for big?
That's great. Smart building. Let's start with actually something that people might know. There are various degrees of smart, and the one that people generally understand is smart home. Smart home today is defined with you have different devices, and they're somehow to an extent connected. And you have Alexa, Google Home, Apple Home, something connected to Ring, Nest, etc. You could use that to an extent. It could be as simple as Alexa, show me who's at the door, and Alexa and Ring gets connected and show you that. An integration, or it could be as complex as you just walk in and everything's set up to what you like it to be, right? In commercial office buildings, not a lot of it exists. So for commercial building, a smart building is simply
we just barely get in with our phone. So
Indeed.
Yes, okay.
Right? So yeah, a smart building is essentially a building. It's an ecosystem where everything's working together to make sure that whoever is interacting with the building has the best experience. The data is flowing between systems, and also it is creating an understanding of what to expect to make sure that the operation is the most efficient possible.
So then at the core of a smart building are integrations.
They are the integration.
Got it. So what is an integration then? Is it what you described as just data flowing, or is there more complex things? Like what is that?
At its core, yes, it's two or more systems working together to offer that single experience, standardized data communication between multiple systems to offer that singularity when someone is interacting with it. So
what does singularity mean in like layman's terms?
It is a best integration is when you don't know you're dealing with an integration. Let's just put it that way, right? As simple as when you tap with your phone to pay for something at the store, it is your phone, right? A hardware, a point of sale system, hardware, credit card terminal, hardware plus software, and a credit card company's platform, a software working together to complete transaction in a matter of seconds. It's combination of hardware and software working together to offer that singular experience, seamless experience, which is secure. It's pretty secure and it works, and you didn't even know that there were 4 different systems working together to offer you that experience. In our industry, it is a very common use case is getting into the space. Generally, spaces are locked. And you would use your card to tap at some sort of a reader. It would.
When you say card, you mean a plastic key card?
Plastic key card, mobile phone key card, other mechanisms. Even like, for example, if it's not that with parking, it could be just simple device reading it. But the common action is you have an intent of getting in the door. You take an action of tapping your phone at the card reader, and it opens the door for you. To make that happen, it is the mobile phone or plastic key card or whatever, card reader, which is a hardware. It is the door controller, which is another hardware. Access control system, it's a software, and magnetic lock that basically opens the door for you.
So it's like 5 integrations in just a simple tap. So that's what you mean by singularity.
Right. And no one knows, right? Like a normal person wouldn't think about, 5 systems are working together. All they know is I tap and it works. And that's what integrations do. They just make things simple.
Got it. So I guess that's kind of obvious because like the reason integrations are so important is that everybody's attitude about ease and ease of use and everything has to happen immediately is just driving today's interactions with technology. So, I mean, the other day, Apple's iMessage crashed globally and everyone on social media was panicked, confused, or frustrated, I guess, because they didn't know what was happening. So when tech doesn't work the exact way people expect it to, especially for highly reliable tech and tech-savvy people, they have very low patience for that. So I guess then what does that mean for the real estate industry?
Security Industry Association and Cretech actually recently released a study that says about 83% of people, real estate folks, say that lack of integration is a huge problem in the industry. Generally, what it simply means is, well, they have multiple systems, 10 to 15 systems in any commercial building, but they don't work together to offer that seamless experience or automated workflow, or for that matter, data that they're looking for, and that's a huge problem.
Got it. Well, and integrations serve different purposes for different stakeholders in a building. And I think, when we think about that, when we think about who the value is delivered, people always think the end user, but it's actually a spectrum of different stakeholders throughout that the commercial real estate experience. So one, if we look at it, I think I can talk to the commercial side of the business or the ops side of the business, but asset owners look at integrations for top line differentiation, for cost savings even. Like, do you need integrations, or do you need, single point of service, or do you need both of those to work together versus people making you upgrade, vendors making you upgrade to different systems in order to work together? So cost is a big one. Insights that come out of it, like occupancy insights. So with the integration of access control and key card swipes and things like that, you can start to get a real understanding of occupancy and who's in the building. Maybe not in real time, you need sensors and IoT for that, but they care about those insights. And then the future readiness of buildings, as buildings are going through a kind of macro shift right now. They need to understand, and they want to understand, they care about, what does the future look like for this asset? So then I guess if we look at also the CEO of a company who's a tenant of a building, so just like, just a tenant of the building, they care mostly about productivity today, right? How, with everybody in a hybrid element, they care about employees coming in and being the most productive selves and making sure that collaboration is really set up for them to be successful. So easing that burden of coming back to office is really important. But in the tech world, so as a tech leader, what does like a CIO care about in that world? So first of all, does real estate even have CIOs? Like, what's that shifting?
Yeah, I think in most cases, the REIT companies, asset management companies, have some sort of a C-level function who is responsible for technology. It is CTO, CIO, others, right? But there is a leader who is being asked to say, how can we make things better for all of our buildings? It is pretty common to see that at a portfolio level versus a single building having a CIO. It is at a portfolio level. And because they are looking at things holistically, both from a system standpoint as well as business standpoint, the things that they care about is data, the topmost, right? Because one, as a technical person, they understand data is flowing, but then the question becomes, okay, how is the data being governed? Who's having access to data? Who owns the data? How is the data going to be used? And those are very important decision points for tech lead or CIOs to make when they think of system integrations.
But isn't data like all over the place when it comes to real estate?
Oh yeah, it certainly is. It's not just that. Like a lot of the data points actually do exist in building systems, just never to be accessed, and that's a huge opportunity left unrealized. So yes, it is their primary outcome that they're expecting is we get the data and we do something with it, but getting it from the system that's in the building to something that is usable for other stakeholders, it is very important to CIOs because they are responsible for it, right? You said it really well. Integration is everyone benefits from it, regardless of if you're technical or not. The term itself is seen as like a technical thing. Everyone benefits from it.
Well, that's because the world is connected. So,
that's because world is connected.
Yeah.
We are getting smarter. On top of that, hopefully, okay, fair. On top of that, they care about the scale of it. Can you use the same integration that has been built across multiple properties? Can I repeat that? Can I go faster, right? What is the reliability of those integrations? Because integration, when it works, it's amazing, but when it doesn't work, it's a huge pain, and CIOs of anyone knows that.
But how much of the reliability is based off of the tech, and how much is off of like upgrades of APIs or SDKs? Like, what does reliability can take two different paths, right?
Yeah, it certainly does. And not just that, it's also reliability in a sense that what is broken, right? If you don't know how the data is flowing, what is broken takes the most amount of time versus fixing what's broken. In engineering world, at least in software engineering world, it's funny saying there's this rubber ducky thing. You don't know what's broken. You would talk to a rubber ducky saying, just talk it out, and you know what the problem is because you understand how things are working. And now once you know what the problem is, it's easy to fix.
I don't understand the rubber ducky thing, but we can, as long as you do.
Well, hopefully the audience does. But 80% of time is spent in figuring out where the problem is. 20% is probably spent actually fixing it. And integrations, because there are many systems involved, it is very important to make sure that they're reliable, continue to work. And then support and security along with it, both from a vendor standpoint as well as security in a sense that physical security as well as cyber security is very important. The people that build the integration, call them engineers. For them, it is the ease of integration. How quickly can I build it? Is there a documentation for me to understand how a particular system is working, right? And access control is a great example. There are tens or even hundreds of them across the world. And
when you say that systems, like vendors and
vendors and OEM systems, is it documented for integration to be a thing, right? Because when engineers are building the integration, they need to understand how to offer that same experience while the system behind the scene is expecting different set of data, right? A very simple example is in the access control world, a user is referred with different names. Someone calls it cardholder, some calls it badge holder, some calls it a user, some calls it app keeper, and it's just different names. And because the data is being transferred back and forth, it needs to be standardized to understand how to talk, right?
So even the nomenclature has to be standardized first and foremost for then the integration to even remotely start
work. Exactly. So hence the standardization is very important. Are you following industry best practices? Can we use APIs to what the standards today are, right? And then simply how often these systems are updated. Because when systems stay still for a long amount of time, it's not just vulnerable from a security standpoint, but then again, now the backwards compatibility becomes much bigger problem. There's a reason people would say, let's use Windows 10 or something like that versus Windows 95, 98, right? Needs to continue to upgrade because technology always evolves.
Got it. So, what best practices are there in the world that has seemingly, that has seemingly endless combinations of systems? It's interesting because there could be a ton, right? If you say there's 10 to 100 systems out there, whatever that is, that's quite a large range. I think globally, we still don't know the full audience, but in the US, we see somewhere between 10 and 15 systems, and it depends on, how big, what kind of property, how big the property is, the size and scale of it, the asset owner, all of those different things. Recently, our team identified that there is so card readers, devices, HVAC device, everything. So lighting, parking, everything in the building ecosystem from a software perspective. So in touchless access alone, take out all the other building automation side of it, there's over 792 combinations that I know we can do today. And so what does that how is that? That's kind of great context to the why integrations are important. But get to the technical stuff. Like the repeatability of these integrations are really tough. How are we solving for it? How do you think people need to solve for it? And I think we have a question in the chat too that asks, who is building the integrations from James? So talk to the whole kind of get inside the integration landscape of what this means inside of a smart building, smart building ecosystem. Yeah. Like, what does that all look like?
Yeah. We have talked about access control as an example multiple times today. Let's just take that again. We mentioned there are 4 or 5 systems working together to make things flow. We'll take each of those examples. So, for example, card reader systems. Card readers are hardware, right? They are using protocol-based systems as well as something called software development kit. Software development kit is a piece of software that they would offer for others to integrate with these card reader systems. That's one way of integrating with.
Wait, you got to dumb that down even more.
Okay, so. When you are integrating with hardware, there is a hardware communication required, right? Hardware to hardware, phone to card reader communication needs to happen. And for that to happen in a secure way, there is this integration method by using SDKs that you put in the phone so that hardware can talk to each other.
So who provides the SDK?
Generally, it is provided by manufacturer of the card reader systems, right? Be it HID, be it Blue Diamond, be it Wavelengths. These are different card reader companies, and each of them would have their own SDK that they would offer to embed into the phone so that mobile keycard can work. Now, why is this important? And why do they offer?
So who embeds it into the phone?
In this case, the software engineers, for example, Cohesion engineers would embed that into the Cohesion application. And
so it has to come through an app.
It has to come through an app because it is an SDK. Now, doesn't matter whose app it is an app, right? Like for Cohesion, we embed all of these SDKs. And Cohesion, because we are doing integrations and we understand how the systems work together, we know which SDK to invoke when you're in front of a door because we know what reader is already installed, right? And that's one. Then you have to talk between system to system. So card reader needs to talk to door controller, that is a VGAN or OSDP protocol. Our system needs to talk to HID's backend system, which is called application programming interface, essentially API. Access control, we have to integrate with them as well, so that when you tap the card, access control knows about that card information, right? So that is another API integration. And then again, the door controller talking to Maglock and just like sending an electric signal saying, hey, open the lock. There are different ways to integrate, and each of that from customer's standpoint, they don't need to know what are the different ways to integrate because we solved that problem for them. But it is very important that it is done the right way for all the things that we talked about that stakeholders care about: scalability, security, data flow, and also just repeatability and what sort of data you can.
But what if I'm just like one building property manager? Do I care about all of that?
Yes, today COVID has changed a lot. Good for us. It is important because even as a property manager, my job is to service the tenants. And to service the tenant, I need to offer experiences that tenants are asking for. And the true single seamless experience don't happen without integrations.
Got it.
And this is not just about software or hardware systems. There are quite a few software systems that buildings are using as well. It could be anywhere from like your work orders to your amenity reservations to conference room booking or just something as simple as single sign-on. And these are software systems. All of them needs to work together for it to be something as simple as you just tap one button and everything starts working for you, instead of going through a flow of 10 different steps, manual intervention taking hours and days. It takes seconds because integrations.
So maybe what we could do is let's talk about a day in the life of just like a person. And you stop me as I'm going through this day and tell me where there's an integration needed.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have just like employee who's 26 years old coming into a building. They come in 3 times a week into the building and they use their phone. So first they got to scans at building security, the turnstile or whatever else it is, that they scan that key card. So that's
the person downloads the app and log in using their software single sign-on system. So that's one. And
why is that important?
For security, from an HR flow standpoint, it is very important when a person is onboarded, they basically get access to everything. When they're offboarded, they do not have access to the systems at all.
So it's like one login to onboard and offboard versus going into each system.
And
is that an integration?
It is an integration. Yes.
Okay, so that's a software integration.
That is a software integration. Now, talking to mobile keycard, that is the card reader system as well as access control system. Two more. Turnstile system. Sorry, keep going.
You can finish with the access control.
Okay, so this is state-of-the-art building. It's got a system called destination dispatch. So when you go and tap at the turnstile, it calls an elevator for you. That is an integration. Or calling elevator through Cohesion app. That is an integration with elevator system as well as Bluetooth beacons.
So from just that door entry, and this is, 26-year-old is walking in from public transportation, let's say. Well, we can talk about the person that drives into the building and parks their car because there's a few more there. There's a few more actions there. So you've got from that door to calling an elevator, you've used a mobile key card, you've called either an elevator from your phone, like through an elevator call button, which includes that elevator integration, or destination dispatch is set up in the elevator, which means that when you scan that key card, whether it's mobile or plastic, it automatically calls an elevator and tells you to go to this bank. So therein lies, how many did you count?
4 to 5, yeah.
Yeah, but you forgot the beacons?
Yes.
So then their beacons are kind of looking to see, are you in proximity so you're not wasting a call, wasting energy on calling an elevator or being not secure. So probably 6 right there.
Right.
So then let's say I'm this, I get up to my desk and I am hot. It's really hot in the office and it feels stuffy. So I want to look in the app and I want to look to see what's the temperature reading in the office and is the air quality okay? Like, am I going to get sick?
2 more. So that would probably be BAS, building automation system integration for HVAC systems, right? What the temperature is looking like with thermostats as well as the other devices. And then indoor air quality sensors, which will tell you what the air quality is looking like. It could come from BAS level devices, but
do building automation system devices actually do? What I heard was that they will look at CO2 at most if it's set up that way.
And in many cases, they are done in like a very high level at the ceiling level, which is not same as the person height level, like a 6 feet height where the
so the air quality could be different up there than
it could very well be different. Yes, there is a reason there's like a whole airflow engineering, right? But yes, it could be very well different. So a true air quality reading would require some sort of an air quality sensor, indoor air quality sensor. So that is another integration over API or other mechanisms. So now we are at like 9.
Okay. So then I want to get in and I'm tired because air quality is, it's a little rough in the office at that time. But the building has something set up where they're actually, they detect air quality levels that are elevated and they start to, something happens to make the space seemingly less polluted. What's happening in the background there?
Yeah, so this is, again, one of that power of integration because in this case, you as a user have no idea what is going on except I'm feeling tired. But when you have integrations built in with indoor air quality sensor and BAS system, what for example, we are doing is when that pollutant rise, right, command to HVAC system so we can bring in fresh air for 5 10 minutes. Is that
somebody behind the scene that's manually doing it?
It is not a person. If an integration, if it requires a manual intervention, it is not a true integration. So
what then? Okay, so we've seen platforms out there that kind of look at these remote engineers. Is that what they're doing versus like your software commanding it, or?
Various level of where they are in the industry. I think what we have really seen, what works the best is how quickly can you react to air quality going bad, right? If it is we are waiting for a person to react, it's going to take time, and that's not helpful. If there is a system would work the fastest, and that would happen in a matter of milliseconds, seconds. That's the approach we have taken is let's integrate so that everything's automated and everything's happening in itself. One, it saves property management and engineers time, but second, it provides that experience, and you don't even know that it's actually working for you behind the scene, doing right things for you.
Okay, so now we've got air quality. How many?
11. I think we are at 11
Okay.
now.
So then let's say it's lunchtime. I want to order food, but I can't get away from my desk, and I want, it delivered to my desk. And I want to go into the app. I want to get a discount if I can, because I'm always looking at, saving some money. I order the food, and then the building has something set up in which they've got these things called building concierge, and the concierge actually delivers the lunch. We have, just in full transparency, I'm just describing a smart building in general. We have heard a lot of people in the industry talk about this, bringing in human level concierge for that human service to supplement and augment, this smart building experience. So software solves some things, but not everything can be solved by software for experience. And so is that, when somebody delivers the food to, let's say, the tenant desk, that's not an integration.
The delivery itself is not, because it's a human delivering it, but to get that food, you paid for it. So when you paid for it, there is an integration to go through a point of sale system or some sort of a credit card system, and that is integrated so that when you pay the money, it actually ends up in restaurant or building's bank account, right?
Got it.
So there is an integration there, but it is a combination of integration plus a concierge human service making it work together.
All right.
So we are at 12.
Okay, so we're at 12. So then, it's coming to the end of the day, or let's say it's 3 p.m. and I want to book a conference room because I want a fellow, product managers are there, and I want to get everybody in a room together, and we want to whiteboard and have this great session. And I'm looking at the inventory of rooms available in my suite, and I'm able to book a conference room. I go to that conference room and it's already taken. So I walk around and I go to another conference room that seems empty. And then all of a sudden the green light goes to red when I enter the room. What's happening behind the scenes there?
So we are talking about one, because it turned red, it probably booked itself a calendar integration, right? Be it a Microsoft Exchange, G Suite, etc. But there is some sort of a integration there. The second piece is there is an occupancy sensor in there, just basically acknowledging that a person is in the room. So that's 14. And probably the fifth one, you have a display of some kind, be it a restaurant or still case kind of screens, or something as simple as a small sensor that just makes the light go on. That's another one. So in this case, it was calendar integration with the occupancy sensor as well as the actual display sensor. So 3 more, we are at 15.
Okay. So now it's the end of the day, and I want to check when my train's coming because I've taken public transportation to come here. I look at the app and I look at that there's this thing that shows me the times for when the public transportation comes, my bus comes, and I schedule enough time to get just enough time so I'm not waiting at the corner for that bus, and then I get on the bus. Anything there?
Yeah, the integration with schedules of different transportation systems, right? Chicago could be Metro, DV, Lyft, Uber, or just the CTAs. So yeah, there is another integration with the transit system. So we are at 16.
I think you forgot one. Do you know where I'm going?
Probably work orders.
No, occupancy sensors. When I'm walking out the building, though,
that is another one.
It's telling me I'm leaving.
Yes, it's actually a good point because the occupancy sensor that you had in the conference room while we figured out that you were in there could probably be different, which is like a heat map and heat sensing, could be different than just a people counting sensor, which is just going in and out of the building. On top of that, right, there are operational systems that would require integrations, and work order is probably one of them. There are other systems that people use like accounting, etc. So we are back to we are about 16, 18 different integrations to run a building. So about right.
And we didn't even cover the operational side of that. So this is all the kind of tenant employee side experience. So other kind of things that, smart buildings can have is HVAC scheduling, true HVAC controls, not just looking at the temperature, but then being able to command to it and remote command of different things. But what does, in a smart building, there's so much data being collected, right? What does the role of data play? And then what does the role of AI play, as I believe John asked a question? What happens there?
Yeah, I think this is actually one of the best outcome from integrations. Not only it provides that great experience, but it forces data standardization so that systems could talk with each other. Um, the the first thing in the world of AI, if you talk to any AI expert, is they actually spend so much time in actually cleaning the data, normalizing the data, and transforming the data to get it to a point where AIs, MLs, for example, can even understand what to do with it and run science on it. So, what does smart building solution and what sort of AI roles we can play there? First, have those integrations built so the data is standardized, normalized, and transformed so AI can look at the data and create different analysis out of it. The second part of that is doing the analysis and creating sort of AI experiences requires proper data. So one, smart building solutions offer that. Second, because that continues to become a thing, at this point, AI solutions get to a mode of prescriptive and predictive solutioning to say, hey, you come in here every day at 9 a.m., right? Your office is occupied. Let us actually prepare the environment for you. So when you come to the office, it's actually built for you. But then when you're not there, it is not using the energy. It is not using the system on the HVAC side, or it's not using a lighting energy, for example, and saving money as well. So it could treat that it provide the best comfort while also optimizing your operations and hence better ROI.
So said another way, I guess, for AI to really be leveraged in a smart building, you have to set the foundation first from data standardization to learning, right? You need enough data collected to learn people behaviors. And people behaviors in a commercial building vary widely. And so you start to connect it to roles, right? Exactly. Different roles of people are different tenants. But just like kind of the automobile industry, AI, we're not there yet to get to full kind of autonomous action. Do you have like a sense of where smart buildings are in that? First of all, are we familiar with the levels of levels of autonomy as a car industry? There's 5. And automobiles aren't even there yet. Like, where are we with smart buildings in general, leveraging AI?
I think we are in its infancy, very, very early stages. If anything, we have seen the best usage of AI in tech sector. Tech sector knows how to use it. I'm sure you have heard of Google's and Facebook's using it, right?
Never heard of it.
But the smart building industry, I think, if anything, we have remotely seen it in some sort of a point solution where they're doing one thing and they can only just look into that. A holistic AI for a true smart building, it's going to take some time to get there. That said, we are starting to see some parts and pieces of it. By connecting those systems, we can continue to do that. For example, indoor air quality optimization is one example where it's like we are starting to understand people behavior, space utilization behavior, and that's happening because things are integrated. So let's actually make it work. Because it's very complex and different than what you would see in smart homes.
So is it fair to say that AI will be, given all the macro things that are happening in commercial real estate, like, we're still trying to figure out now, post-COVID and post the last 3 years, how are spaces being utilized, whether that's multifamily, residential, commercial office, industrial. All of the use of space has varied and changed over the last 3 years. And what we don't understand is how it's being used. So in order to kind of leverage AI, you need to understand that. Right. But so that's one macro. Another is that the labor force in commercial real estate in general is leaving the industry 5 times higher than any other industry at this point in time. And so you're seeing a real drain on human capital. So AI is going to have to solve for that as well. And then we've got, 2 big other kind of macro factors. One is healthy buildings. Most people are writing that into leases today, right? If they're signing new leases, they want the elements of air quality being monitored and temperature controls. They want to be able to control their spaces. And then the last kind of fundamental that we're seeing is around, obviously, climate change, the big one. And climate change, we have, the other day, the UN came out with a report that we are not on track for what we need to be doing. And commercial buildings are phase 1 of the climate accord, and commercial buildings account for about 40% of the utilization of emissions. So if we look at what we can do with AI, right? AI can start to your point earlier, it not only improves the day-to-day experience today, right? Mm-hmm. It also can be the solution for solving some of these macro challenges that we have in front of us.
Certainly.
So obviously I'm biased, and I think we at Cohesion have solved some of these major pain points for our customers and have built great technology to address these pain points of these disparate systems, which lead to disparate and unproductive experiences. If people work with Cohesion, are integrations actually plug and play then? And how long, Stephen asks, how long does it take for these integrations to be built?
Yep. I will give the most known answer, it depends.
Well, that's great.
So from a technological standpoint, yes, our integrations are plug and play. Once we have built the integration, we could use it as many times, and we do use it as many times as we can and should.
So when you say use it, you mean that you can repeat an integration?
Yes, use the same integration for the same functionality. So yes, use that integration in multiple buildings across portfolios whenever we see that same system again.
So help me understand that. What does that mean? Like, is there a time element to it?
Yeah, the biggest thing, for example, what from a stakeholder standpoint, what matters is speed to value. And once the integration is built from a Cohesion standpoint, right, it is a technologically repeatable integration, which means we can go and create the value in matter of hours, not even days, weeks, right? The last building that we basically launched, it was an integration that we had built before, we had seen before with an access control system, DataWatch. And when we went into this new building, they're using DataWatch, great. The access control part of it took 15 minutes. The total building.
Wait, you're saying an integration with an access control system took 15 minutes?
15 minutes to go live. Now there are hey, we have to
so how did you do that though? How does that work?
In this case, the reason it worked for us is because one, DataWatch has that cloud connectivity already established, which made it easy. We needed API credential for that particular building, so we could talk to DataWatch system at that building. We put the credential in, we were up and running.
But
now
what's on our side?
There was time on our side that took in total about 37 hours to set up the building, make sure that we are up and running. Overall, it still took less than a week for us to go in and get everything set up. And
but you're talking generically. Now let's just keep with DataWatch.
Yep.
Back to DataWatch. What have we built so that it can be repeatable?
So the integration that we have done, basically the biggest thing, and it's with every customer that we have gone live with, is enabling user and access management. And the big piece of that is mobile keycard. Right. In this case, it was DataWatch and HID as those two different systems. We have integrated with both of them. That in itself, we spent less than a week to get in and out to set up everything. And the first user use mobile credential with Cohesion app we spent about 37 hours in calendar time because of holidays, etc. It was about 3 weeks, but as far as users concerned, they did not have to upgrade any systems because it is the system that we are already integrated with, and they were able to offer the experience that they wouldn't otherwise. And with mobile keycard, now it takes 10 seconds that would have generally taken hours because there was manual flow in place to, hey, someone would call security would go to system, add the data, then it would notify tenant, they would do something, and then physical keycard would be given. All of that went from hours and days to a matter of 10 to 30 seconds to get the mobile credential and get it going.
So integrations are a big key buzzword today, and we've seen the industry shift from mostly asking about experience and community to fully integrated buildings or partial integrated buildings.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of real estate software solutions promise integrations. What are some key questions that folks on this webinar listening in, or customers or prospects looking for smart building solutions and experience platforms? what should they ask before they sign on the dotted lines as it relates to integrations?
Yeah, I think the first thing is understanding if they're actually integrating with systems. A rule of thumb here is if the integration is done and you still need human intervention to complete your flow, it is probably not the complete integration, right? There needs to be more and can be more.
Why is that a problem?
Because every time a human intervention is required, you are waiting for something else to happen, human to come in and do it, and that in itself just breaks the experience as well as data flow. And
so you say flow, but is it even collected then from a data perspective?
It could be lost. It's human, right? Not all the data gets in, and yes, the data could be lost in general.
Okay, so the question they have to ask is, what are they really embedding? Are they really integrating with the system? And
correct.
What does that integration look like?
Yep.
Okay.
The second one is who is building the integration. We have seen this happen over and over, that everyone says, hey, we integrate with everything in the world, and then when you actually get into the details, it is either outsourced, you will receive an additional bill because now there is an integration, or now you're dealing with 3 different vendors instead of one that you thought you would deal with. And also understanding who is building the integration is very important, because anytime an integration is built, there is a system expertise required to build an integration. And why is this important is because when you have to make a change into the system with the integration, etc., the speed of that change depends on who is building the integration. If it's different vendors building the integration, now you're basically chasing everyone to get something done. And this is the part where engineers and technical side, as well as the CIOs, don't like, because marketing says something that like, hey, we do it, and then engineers and CIOs get into it and it's like, nah, that's not the case, right? So very important to ask those questions upfront. The other one is the integration actually certified with the manufacturer who provides that system, OEMs, right? Now, why is that important? Non-certified integration could cause data loss, security issues, it could cause system reliability issues, etc. But when the integration is certified, it is the integration company who is actually doing the integration, as well as the OEM, seeing it from 2 different sides and saying, yes, it will not cause issues between those 2 different systems. Hence, that certified integration is very important. Right.
So do you have to certify for every building, or just the integration itself has to be certified once?
Just certify integration with OEM once, and you could use it in multiple buildings where that system is put in place. It will also tell you what sort of systems are compatible, what versions are compatible, things like that. The other part is how is data flowing and what is the data governance and security policies.
So that's another question that they're asking. We're talking about their questions.
Yep. This is the question that customers should be asking when they're looking at integrations, right? And they definitely need to see this from a security lens and data governance lens to say, hey, who is authenticating with the system? How are they authenticating with the system? What sort of security protocols they are following? How are my data going to flow between multiple systems, and where is it being stored? How is the data going to be used, and how is it going to be leveraged and processed? These are important questions, specifically when we see data governance laws and what government basically asks you to follow in terms of data governance. Real estate industry doesn't have a particular standard that everyone has to follow because of different verticals in system standpoint. But the ones that people probably may have heard of is health industry has HIPAA, right? That's a standard that anyone building an integration or even using the system has to follow, because there's personally identifiable system information. We do the same thing in real estate industry, but understanding how that is going to flow is very important. So data governance is important. And another one, the last one, importance here is following some sort of a compliance label. The one that industry generally looks into is what sort of practices the company that is doing the integration is following. And this would be, how are they internally using the data? How are they using the data from a storage and compliance standpoint? A simple, I guess, rule of thumb is asking a question of, are you SOC 2 compliant? And if you are, what does it look like? Because you could look at every procedures and policies that they're following, and you could decide for yourself if that makes sense or not. So asking like, are you in compliant with this compliance standards?
What about maintenance of the integration? Is that a question they should be asking, or
They
is that
should.
assumed with the certification?
Generally, the question here to ask is, how do you manage backwards compatibility? And when I upgrade the system, or when system upgrades, right? If it's a cloud-based system, who is going to ensure that integration stay up to date? That's the question they're asking, and hence maintenance and upgradability is an important question to ask as well.
So I think, if we look at, let's say we start to build a new integration, right?
Mm-hmm.
And our supposed customer here is saying, I want this integrated. They come to vendor, right? Software vendor that says I can do integrations. What are the roles? So kind of in this theme of customers, what role should they expect each person to play in the role of getting that integration? So let's start with the customer, the owner.
Right. So there is a customer who is basically looking for some sort of an outcome through integration. They are playing the role of a primary stakeholder, saying this is the outcome I want, right? So understanding and offering that. The second one is, even on the customer side, there is probably few folks involved, either on the IT side, operations side, maintenance side, saying these are the policies that software vendor has to follow to say that this falls under our, as a customer, our own policy. On top of that,
the customer defines the integration policy. What if they don't know? What if they don't have a policy?
Hopefully they have Cohesion, but they are working with a tech partner that can advise them on what those policies should be. Right? Totally, we have seen this over and over, where customer may actually not know all of this because it's a different world, right? And they are not in this world day-to-day basis. But a software vendor can actually outline those policies, and this is what should be followed. Why is this important? Because as soon as this is established, now the other roles come into picture: a vendor, an integrator, a vendor who could be the software vendor itself or others. An integrator who has already put and installed the systems in the building, a manufacturer of those systems, right? So an integrator that installs the systems will be different than the company OEMs that manufactures that, and those are two different people. So how is that working? And the last one, how is this going to be tested and UAT'd, so user acceptance tested, so that when a customer puts that out in front of their users, right, tenants or headquarters, stakeholders, CEOs, whoever, they can be confident that it will work and it will drive the success that they are looking for. Now, out of all of this, what you're also getting is an understanding of how the data is standardized, because now you would understand how things flow, an experience as an outcome that drives the successful adoption of the integration that is built. And the last one is just a modularity. You are integrated. It's great to have smart building, but when you have to change one of those systems, upgrade one of those systems, that modularity is very important, because then you are not locked into a vendor, right? A true integration would basically say, we understand if that system needs to go out and something else needs to plug in, we can still keep all the data flowing and standardize and still offer the same experience regardless of what is going on behind the scene.
So let me come back to the example of the roles that people play in the integration process. So customer, either has standards or doesn't. Mm-hmm. Software vendor that they've selected can create those standards or provide those standards or follow the standards. Mm-hmm. OEM or other vendor that's to be integrated with
offers the APIs or the
SDKs. Right. Uh-huh. And then what role is the customer playing in that interaction between software and vendor?
I think the biggest thing is driving that with urgency and firmness that it has to happen. In many cases, the way our industry is today, there are quite a few hoops that you would generally go through. But when you come with knowledge and a tech advisor side by side with you, you could actually drive that urgency. You could drive the experience and outcome that you're looking for, because a tech advisor, tech partner, software vendor can tell you how to make it happen. So when you are met with resistance, like, no, this is not possible, this is what a customer can do to say, no, it is, and I know this is how we can get to it. Let's make it happen.
Okay, so then at the very end of this kind of integration flow, then you mentioned something about certification. So the OEM and the software provider have to get certified.
Yes.
So they go through a testing process. What does a testing process look like?
So generally what happens in this whole process is, say the integration is not built. A software vendor would talk with OEM partnership folks and like get the API and SDK access. And after that, they would build the integration. Now, the integration is normally built in a sandbox environment, which you do not want them touching your building on day one when they're still figuring out how to build the integration if it's not done already. And at that point, it is built in sandbox environment. And this is the time where you would go back and forth in terms of understanding data flow experiences, etc. And after that, there are list of test cases that OEM generally provides, and if not, software vendor should already at least have them to say, these are the test cases that we will go through, both what we call test cases that are, this is how it's supposed to work, but also when something breaks, how can we determine that? So you would go through edge cases, normal test cases of this is the outcome that we are expecting, and with integration, we have seen that outcome. At this point, you would talk with OEM and go through a proper certification process where OEM would, an expert from OEM, be it a tester or some sort of a department that is responsible for this certification, would come to the table and say, let's look at this integration. Let's see that, one, data is flowing in both systems. It is creating the experience from a test standpoint, it's working. It is following security standards. It is following the performance standards, as well as it is following the governance standards. And OEM will confirm that yes, it is, and the system will continue to work on both sides. And they would certify the software vendor who built the integration, saying, this looks great, you can use it moving forward wherever you see this system and system version. This is great because now when you go and put that in your building as a customer, you can be rest assured that it will work. And if there is something different where it may not work, you can find that out before it's too late and you have already created a chaos where everyone's just running around. So those certifications are very important. Customer is helping drive that urgency, but software vendor will be generally responsible for getting that integration done and certified. Customer will be that key and bridge between brokering these conversations to make it happen.
Got it. So we have a few more minutes. If anybody wants to put any questions in the chat, we'll answer those. But in the meantime, why can't everyone do the integrations? What you've kind of said today is underlying, on the software side of it, underlying architecture. You could build one-offs, it seems like, but long-term reliability and or scalability for a portfolio doesn't make sense. But anything else that you can think of as to why not everyone can do it?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is to build an integration. Whoever is building that integration needs to really understand the systems, right?
Is it just the systems, or do you have to understand the human?
And you have to understand people flow, outcomes, workflows, etc. All of it, and that part is very important because gaining that system expertise in industry like ours, where everything's extremely complex, and this is an industry that's been around for a long time, which means the systems and how upgraded they are, how they're working together, could be a different stage of the journey of making it work. So understanding that complexity between systems and what it takes to get this working in industry is very important as well. There is a tech side of integration, and there is a the actual process of integration, going through that and going through this as fast as possible. And even after doing all of this, it has to scale, it has to repeat, right? So it is much easier to build an integration against one system, but then you want to drive that same experience against 10 other different systems. This is where it starts to get very complex. And scaling that is where things starts to fall apart. And this is why I don't think everyone can do it, because they don't understand fundamentally how industry works, how systems work, how people work, and how tech work. All of that working together is a monumental task, right? You need experts from industry, you need experts from software industry, you need experts from industry where people are working together. And then for the company that is building that, the reusability is very important for the company who's building that, and their viability. Can they survive as a business? So when you put all of that together, getting all of that at one company is very hard, which is why I don't think everyone can do it. Now, can you do it for probably one system, right? Like in one vertical, sure. But as we talked about, a true smart building goes across multiple system and system vertical, access control, elevators, BAS, software system, work order systems, IoT sensors. Doing integration across all of them is where it gets really hard, and why everyone can't do it.
So we only have 4 minutes left. I think we should, if there's any kind of key takeaways from this, I think, the industry in general is going towards it's going towards interoperability. It already is there. We're already, 4 years into very deep integrations. We've seen a lot of OEMs change their kind of tune even to APIs and SDK creation as not and overcoming the view of feeling threatened to looking at partnerships. And if we think about the future of buildings, there's massive fundamentals, as I outlined today, that are headwinds for this industry. And the opportunity in front of us is to look at everything in an integrated way, in a connected way, so that we can absolutely make buildings more resilient. And resilience is sustainability. Resilience is to the use of space, how buildings in general are used, and to make sure that they don't become obsolete. It's for improving the current experience and the future experience and leveraging AI. So integrations is kind of the foundation, really, is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And I think that integrations, to be done right, they're much more powerful. I guess you can do integrations, I think, out of what we talked about, but to do them right is extremely powerful for data in general, for insights, for AI, for security, anything I'm missing, and the experience overall. So, if you have any other questions on integrations and how we do it, we tried to, give you all an overview of what integrations mean to the commercial real estate industry. But we're happy to, answer any questions as we go on. This is, again, the first of our series in Demystifying Smart Buildings. It was Integrations 101. I'm Dhruv Shivakumar, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Cohesion.
Nick Patel, Chief Technology Officer and co-founder at Cohesion. Find us on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.